Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tom Baker Show. It is great to be back, being powered by Radical Race Gear. If you want to be a champion, you first need to look like a champion. Radical Race Gear can help you do that. They've got all of the gear for racers, from suits to shoes. Of course, they've got sublimated crew shirts, and don't forget your 10x10 Easy Up pop-up with all your team or sponsor logos on it. RadicalRaceGear.com is their website, and Butch and his team will take very good care of you. This is a special week for motorsports fans and motorsports interests everywhere in the world, of course, leading up to Memorial Day weekend with the big three, the Formula One Grand Prix of Monaco, as we say here in America, Formula One for breakfast, the Indy 500 for lunch, and the Coke 600 for dinner. It is absolutely motorsports Christmas, and it's the unofficial real start of the motorsports season on the short track level, because this is the weekend that many of the northern tracks start to open in the northern half of the country, where it's still liable to snow in the middle of April. So most of the tracks up north don't open until May or later May even, and this is a big weekend for that too. We've got a lot to cover on this show. No guest. Okay, we're going to hit some topics and talk some short track racing, and we're going to preview a couple of the big three, because we had a bombshell story break on the IndyCar side of things following qualifying over the weekend. We'll get to that, but let's start with what happened last night as we record this at Millbridge Speedway here in Salisbury, North Carolina. Millbridge, the little dirt track that's big, is the way that I like to talk about it. If you're not familiar with Millbridge, it is a real short track, about a 6 mile, but it is infamous across the country now on the dirt side of things, because it is a place that has spawned a lot of the younger stars that you're seeing in NASCAR, coming into NASCAR, and continues to develop talent for the future. And they had a big show last night. The QRC Open Outlaw event, Simpson QRC Open Outlaw 40 lap, 4,000 to win event was run last night. It was the grand return of the Open Outlaw karts. And why is it the headline today? Well, one, because again, it's a big short track race, even if it's little cars, but two, because of the winner, Caden Kvapil, who is quickly following his older brother Carson up the ranks in motorsports, picked up the win, broke the track record in qualifying. 9.3 seconds was his lap, and went on to win the feature event. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment, but first, here's Caden Kvapil. In victory lane at Millbridge Speedway with Caden Kvapil, who wins tonight's Open Outlaw Kart 40 lap, 4,000 to win feature. That's a lot of money. So I want to know who's buying dinner at Waffle House tonight.
Well, Carson, because he's the team owner, so I don't know, I'll let him pay. Hopefully he gives me some money like he did the last big race I won. So I don't know, he probably won't, but he still owes me some for the last couple of days paying entry fees and stuff. So I'm going to make him pay that back at least. But hopefully we go somewhere. I'm starving. I haven't ate all day, so it'd be really cool to go Waffle House and get some waffles like we used to do all the time.
Well, SKE went 1, 2, 3 in this feature, and you were the top dog. Talk a little bit about that race, because I know going in, I mean, you set a track record, and I know you wanted this one bad, and boy, did you get it.
Proud of you. Yeah, we were pretty good all week. I think probably the best car, and every time we went on the track. The only thing we didn't do is win our heat. We started out second in that, and we inverted to fourth. So it was a little bit difficult. We didn't just start up front like we would have if we qualified on pole. So we're still high points, man. Won the dash, started pole, led the whole race. It's really cool. My brother put a lot of work on these cars. It's all his stuff. He bought it all over the off season, and just to come out here and have fun and race, and it's kind of what we grew up doing. So it's really cool to come back out and win in this competitive field. And I can't thank QRC and Jimmy Ellis for putting it on.
I was going to ask you about that because at one point the two of you were first and second, and then Carson blew it up and dropped out of the event. But what's it like to come back and do this again and try to race and compete and win against the people that are doing it every week? It feels like a lot of times when you go away like that and try to come back, you're kind of behind. Everybody else is still in the groove and advancing, and you're just trying to play catch up. And boy, tonight you sure showed them the short way around.
Yeah, luckily it's for me and Carson. I feel like it's like riding a bike. We've done it for so many years, and obviously he was really good around the top when he ran back in 2020 and the years before. And I was never all that good. And then the last couple of years I've been running them into 21, and a little bit last year when I ran them, and the beginning of this year I feel like I've really stepped that up. So it's really cool. And me and him are both out here around the top, and it's really cool to have Millbridge back on the fence like it's supposed to be. It was on the bottom for a couple of races, but it's really cool to be back where we're normally running and to be able to show our talents.
Okay, so you've been doing a lot of late model racing this year. Quickly, wrap up your season for us to date and talk a little bit about what you've been doing with the Cars Tour and other races.
Yeah, we've been running a bunch of just late model shows around this area, some late model stock stuff in the Cars Tour. We're running some ASA super races. I ran Dominion early this year, and tomorrow night we're going to Hickory to run the super late model race there. So I think 250 something laps, long race, and probably gonna be wore out after this open race. These things will put a beating on you. So I'm excited to get back on the asphalt side tomorrow and be able to go compete for a win there.
All right, so the big question and the most important one: who helps you make all this stuff happen, man? Because you've been really busy this year and you've had some good success already.
Yeah, I gotta thank my brother, especially for the karts. He puts all the work into it. Me, him, and my dad. Can't thank him enough. And getting me out here, I can't thank Adam's Performance for the awesome motor, SK Chassis for a great kart as always. It's really cool to be able to run this old kart but still be competitive. So, I'm glad we can put it in victory lane. I can't thank Core Parts.net, Keen Parts, LKN Mechanical, Mills Ammunition, A&B Automotive enough. We brought a strong kart, and to win this big of a race is pretty cool.
Caden Kvapil, winner at Millbridge tonight and headed back for late model racing tomorrow. That's just how the Kvapils roll.
And yeah, Caden Kvapil going to be a very busy boy the next couple of days, and he's got a pretty hefty schedule planned for this year. Part of what Caden's doing is he's been running some for Junior Motorsports on the Cars Tour, which of course was the team that Carson drove for and won championships for on the Cars Tour for a few years, and now is up full-time in the Xfinity Series driving for JRM. So Caden kind of following him up the ranks, if you will, but he's doing a combination of things, super late models, dirt track stuff, and all of that. Interestingly enough, one of the kind of fun storylines in this race, QRC was the one of the main sponsors along with Simpson. QRC, of course, celebrating their 40th anniversary making Outlaw karts, and SKE Chassis, owned by Kyle Beatty here in Concord, North Carolina. The SKEs, they're kind of friendly rivals, you might say, right? And SKE swept the podium. Cohen McDaniel, who finished second in this race, is running USCS sprint cars and has already had 4 top 5s and 5 starts this year. And Cohen is a 7-time track champion at Millbridge. And Peyton Johnson, who finished third, is part of the Dylan Latour racing team, and that is an offshoot of SKE as well, using SKE karts. And Peyton did a great job to finish third. Wyatt Miller, incidentally, of course, from the Earnhardt Miller family, finished in fourth, and that was a recovery from an earlier race wreck. He came back through the field and did a great job. Brody Tucker rounding out the top 5. That event, by the way, drivers as far away as California, Oklahoma, and Iowa coming in to compete in that. Drake Edwards won the box stock feature. Tanner Tucker was the winner in the intermediate class. Cole Williams got the victory in cadet. Maverick Bradshaw won beginner box stock, and Alex Slade, been doing a lot of winning this year at Millbridge, continued that, beating Braden Mussetter in a great junior wing feature event at Millbridge, and they are continuing to roll through their season. MillbridgeSpeedway.com, their website, if you want to check them out. I highly recommend it, and their shows on Wednesday and Saturday are all live streamed on Dirt Vision. Okay, let's talk about some other short track stuff, shall we? First of all, we have talked about short track revivals this year a lot, lately especially on this show. We have another one to add to the list. We've talked about Newport. We've talked about Ararat. We've talked about Rockingham Speedway, of course. Natural Bridge is reopening. That is a track up in Virginia, the second Virginia track with Ararat that is coming back to life this year. Wyatt Coffey and his mom are now the new promoters. This is the 5th Southeast short track to come back to life in 2025, West Virginia Motor Speedway being the one that we hadn't mentioned yet. And Shangri-La 2, a speedway that is located in the southern tier of New York State near the Pennsylvania border, is also reopening this year. Here's what's interesting about this. I hear so many people and I see so many people on social media talking about short track racing dying. Short track racing is dying. Short track racing is dying. That's all I hear. I just gave you 5 Southeast short tracks that are back to life in one form or another this year under new promotion, under new ownership, and in the case of West Virginia Motor Speedway, they're actually building a small track inside of the big track. So kind of a reverse of what you see the most. Usually a small track expands into a big track. At West Virginia, they've got a 5/8 mile track. They're building a 3/8 mile inside it. And they're going to race both. And they expect to be in action for some a limited number of shows during this season, and then a full schedule in 26 being planned there. But great to hear about Natural Bridge last night, because that is another track that needed to come back. And there are a couple of more that I'm hearing that may be shortly behind. So at least in the southeast part of the country, and here's Shangri-La 2 we mentioned in New York State. Now, you might wonder where did Shangri-La, what's the 2? Well, the original Shangri-La Speedway was shut down years ago, and they built a new one. And it was beautiful. And it ran for a couple of years, and then it went dormant. It's been dormant for a good while, and now they have a private investor that has commissioned some folks from up in New York State who know what they're doing to bring the track back, reopen it, and run races there. And I believe it is this weekend that they're actually coming back, if the weather holds up there. And so, again, lots of tracks coming back to action. So that's good, right? Well, sure. But there are issues with short track racing right now. And we have what I believe is a cost of competition problem, and it's a big one. It's a very big one. And we've got a couple of other little problems too. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about a huge shakeup in Team Penske on the IndyCar side once we get to our Indy 500 preview. And we'll talk some NASCAR as we go as well. But more of the short track analysis coming up right after this. Stay with us.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
For over 50 years, FHS Superior Synthetic Oil has powered high-performance engines with unbeatable protection and speed. Whether it's drag racing, go-karts, sprint cars, stock cars, or your daily driver, FHS stands for high speed and delivers every time. Their advanced synthetic oils boost your engine's responsiveness, acceleration, and efficiency, giving you the winning edge on every lap. Visit FHSoil.com today to find the right products for your engine. FHSoil.com. Welcome back to the show. If you're just joining us, my name is Tom. This is the Tom Baker Show, and we are happy to have you. No matter where you are watching us from, we are thankful that you are with us. We are talking short track racing right now, and I mentioned in the last segment that there is now a 5th Southeast short track that is coming back and being revived. Natural Bridge up in Virginia is that track. And I mentioned that although I believe short track racing is alive and well, despite what I see so often on the internet, and I think 5 track revivals plus one in New York are certainly substantial proof that short track racing as a big picture is alive and well. I do think we got some issues, and here's the biggest issue. My concern is that while these tracks are coming back, and so far, I've been to Newport. They had 80% or more fan capacity. I think it was probably closer to 90. Rockingham sold out the Xfinity race and very healthy crowd for the trucks. Ararat had almost capacity for their opener up in Virginia when they came back. And so we've got West Virginia Motor Speedway to come, and also now Natural Bridge to come. I think the tracks are there. Okay, tracks are coming back. Fans are there. Fans are showing support for these tracks, and it seems like this is going to be a big year for that. What I'm concerned about is car count. And I'm concerned that we are allowing some levels of short track grassroots racing. And I'm going to use this phrase on purpose to become more of a white collar sport. Why do I say that? Well, let me give you an example. Teams in the Cars Tour up to, and in some cases potentially exceeding $25,000 to rent a car for one race. That's a late model. That's a late model stock car, $25,000 for a race. Or a pro late model, either one for the Cars Tour. Okay, legend cars, several $1,000s, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 per race for a legend car, a spec car, to run the Cookout Summer Shootout at Charlotte Motor Speedway, which starts in a couple of weeks. We've lost control here. Motors over $50,000, new cars, $100,000. What are we doing to short track racing? What is going on with this? This is, I think, a systemic problem. It's part of a free market. If teams can get $25,000, they're going to charge $25,000. I can't blame the teams. But you may wonder, well, how in the world can a team, what are you getting for $25,000? What you're getting is you're getting basically little cup shops. You're getting late model teams that have full-time staff, very large shops, all the best tools, big cup-style transporters. They are really a NASCAR team in short track form, is really what it is. Some of them even have ex-NASCAR crew chiefs. Now, there's nothing really wrong with any of that other than from an economic standpoint. When you start seeing that sort of big money come into a level of the sport that was never meant for big money to be a part of it, it raises the cost for everybody, because it one team will charge and they'll fill their cars up. The next team says, well, then I can do it too. And pretty soon you've got 4 or 5 teams doing it, 15, 20, 25 grand a race. And then where is that market? Who is the market that can afford? Because again, this is simple multiplication. If you're running a dozen races at 20 grand, that's 240,000. That doesn't include your travel, your food, your hotels, none of it. That's just to rent the car, and hopefully includes the tires and fuel, and basically to race the car. Who is the market here? I mean, the average Saturday night short track racer's not going to have $250,000. They're not going to have $150,000 or $200,000 to go race in a series. There are an awful lot of talented racers. All I have to do is go to Millbridge Speedway on a Wednesday night, and I can see a crap ton of talent. And that's just one little race event with probably less than 100 cars. Okay. And I look around inside of Millbridge's pit area, and okay, I can identify probably maybe a dozen who could spend $250,000. Now, obviously I'm taking out the Larsons, the Bushes, all of sort of those types of folks that are NASCAR focused and obviously have the resources. I'm just talking about the ones that are kind of, the full-timers, so to speak, that aren't NASCAR affiliated or, whatever. But maybe a dozen at the most that could go and spend that kind of money. So how do we then take these kids that are in quarter midgets, legends, bandoleros, even the ones currently trying to run late models or modifieds or super modifieds or sprint cars or micro sprints or whatever? How do we get the ones that don't have $250,000 the same opportunity? And that's, I think, the crisis. And I'm using that word on purpose too. That's the crisis right now that short track racing faces. It is at a crossroads. There is no shortage of tracks to race on. A lot of short tracks that I see, that I pay attention to, are very healthy. Okay, get good car counts, they do well. And some of them not so much. Now in the Southeast here, the late model tracks, the main ones, it seems, so Hickory and Tri-County both run on the same day, 20 minutes apart. If you're both running the same classes, you've immediately split the classes. Tracks don't work together well. Ego-driven. It would make far more sense for everybody to try to get together and work for the good as a whole and grow the car count, and then work with each other and, try and offer incentives. Maybe if you've got a Friday night and a Saturday night track in the same area, offer an incentive. If you win at both tracks, you get a bonus. Maybe there's a separate point fund that sort of is the combined of both tracks. Okay. We've got so many series in some of these divisions. How many dirt late model series are there in the Southeast right now? I'm not meaning just to pick on my home territory, but it's just the one I know the best. Modified series up north, same thing. Okay, it's kind of lost its center point. And so not only do I believe we have a cost of competition problem, and as I said, it's a big one in a lot of the top divisions, okay, but more importantly, I think we have a rules enforcement and a regional cooperation problem. And the sooner we solve those two issues, and the sooner we realize that it is not just about our track or our series, it's about growing the sport as a whole and trying to make sure that everybody has opportunity. There are some tremendous sponsor values right now. There has never been a better time for sponsors to jump on board for late models. They're getting more visibility than ever thanks to series like the Cars Tour. That's the plus side. And by the way, I don't blame the Cars Tour for the cost issue. That's not their fault. Okay, it's what's developed are these super teams with multiple cars to rent. They've got big names, and they get big money from very wealthy families. But what about the ones who aren't? Where do they go? How do they get up the ladder? Okay, we're going to have more conversation about this on future shows, and we're going to bring in some folks to help us talk about it, because I think that we have an opportunity right now to really kick short track racing in the butt. Why? Because I don't believe that NASCAR is catering to the blue collar fan or racer at this point. IndyCar is surely not. And, F1 is obviously F1. So we have an opportunity here to really address short track racing. There's a lot of fan interest right now. They're getting away from NASCAR. They're getting away from IndyCar. They're not happy with the product they're seeing. And so the short track oval crowd especially needs to be very active in trying to fix what's obviously broken here, because even as it is, the Cars Tour gets healthy car counts. We're lucky to get 15 to 20 in any other series in the Southeast on asphalt. The Modified Tour, the Smart Tour, is the exception. And their cost of competition is much lower than the Cars Tour, even with some of the big names that are in it. So we're going to have more conversation about this as we go. But I want to hit something before we go to break here that happened on the short tracks. It happened at North Wilkesboro. We'll talk NASCAR at North Wilkesboro after. But in the modified race, Stephen Kopcik stuffed Tyler Ripkema into the wall. Why? Because Ripkema used his bumper and moved Stephen Kopcik. And Kopcik hooked him into the wall. Kopcik suspended one race, fined $1,500. And Tyler Ripkema got fined $500, not for any part of the actual wreck, but because he got out of his car, walked on the track and flipped him off as he was going by. So that is an example of what I would call good rules enforcement. The NASCAR modified race was rough, man, at North Wilkesboro. It definitely was. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to switch gears, and we're going to talk IndyCar. Two big stories going into 500 weekend. We'll cover them both after this.
Attention track and series owners. Elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
For over 50 years, FHS Superior Synthetic Oil has powered high-performance engines with unbeatable protection and speed. Whether it's drag racing, go-karts, sprint cars, stock cars, or your daily driver, FHS stands for high speed and delivers every time. Their advanced synthetic oils boost your engine's responsiveness, acceleration, and efficiency, giving you the winning edge on every lap. Visit FHSoil.com today to find the right products for your engine. FHSoil.com.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
We are back, and Indy 500 beckons. That should be all that anyone needs to know to get excited about the weekend. But boy, last weekend's qualifying if you weren't completely just blown away and speechless after Sunday's qualifying, I don't know what to tell you. You don't have a pulse. I mean, not that I want to see cars crash at Indy. I don't want to see cars crash anywhere except the Demo Derby. But you had cars crashing. You had a rookie with a rookie Indy 500 team set the pole. Robert Schwartzman on the pole for the Indy 500. First time in forever that a rookie is sat on the pole. It's been a long time. I think there have only been 3 in the history of the Indy 500. Team Prema, who has struggled out of the box in their first year as an IndyCar team. If you don't know Prema, you need to pay more attention to what happens outside of the United States. They are one of the premier F1 ladder organizations, and coming over to Indy seemed a natural step because they have more drivers ready for Formula One than seats available. And Team Prema shocking the world. That's a huge story. Now, can Robert Schwartzman win the Indy 500? Well, he's starting from the pole, so if he's out there, sure, he can win. Would I pick him as a favorite? I don't really know, because I never would have picked him to be anywhere in the top half of the field. I figured Prema would be somewhere from about 15th or 16th back with their 2 cars. But Schwartzman has just simply been lights out. And Schwartzman is going to start for the pole. And if you don't think that's a lot of pressure for a rookie, you have no idea what happens at the Indy 500 and what a pressure cooker that is. So I just hope that he gets through the first few laps, can settle in, run a good pace. Who knows? He might just pull it off. Now, maybe a bigger bombshell came out of Team Penske. And let me explain real quick what happened. So 2 of the 3 Penske entries for the Indy 500, Will Power and Joseph Newgarden, their cars, they were caught basically altering the rear attenuator. Now, they were sort of filling in a gap, filling in a seam, okay? Think about your windowsill. You want to keep the cold air out. You put, some kind of putty or stripping on it, okay? Kind of what they were doing. Is this a huge performance advantage? I don't know. It's not legal, okay? And they got caught. Both cars, Scotty McLaughlin's car did not have that alteration on it, so he's legal. The other 2 cars got caught, and as a result, sent to the back of the grid. So they'll start 32nd and 33rd. Now, the result of that situation was that Roger Penske cleaned house of his IndyCar management team, basically. Team Penske, the following announcement coming out on Monday. Team Penske announced today the departures of IndyCar team president Tim Cindric, IndyCar managing director Ron Rzuski, and IndyCar general manager Kyle Moyer from the organization. Team Penske will have further announcements this week related to personnel and replacements for this weekend's Indianapolis 500. Holy cow. Here's the subnote to this whole story. Someone was wise enough to go and look at last year's winning Indy 500 car that sits in the museum. And you know what? That car had the same modification to the attenuator that the 2 cars that were found illegal this year, last weekend, had. What do you do about that? You're not taking the win away. But you know what? That's unfortunate. That calls into question how thorough, how competent, what is going on with IndyCar tech. Now, granted, Team Penske made it a little obvious this year when you're running around and you're, in the pit area with, open flame trying to, cover up what you did. and, other competitors see it, that makes it pretty obvious. I don't know that last year was an issue, but why wasn't that car caught? So lots of questions here going into the greatest spectacle in racing, and sadly, just a little bit of a cloud. Will the Penske cars still have a shot at winning? Of course they will. They'll probably be up in the top 10 by a quarter of the way through the race. Okay, I think either one of those cars could win. But it's going to be interesting. Let's switch and talk NASCAR real quick here, because the common story is Kyle Larson, first of all. And Larson, again, doing the double. Different this year, though, because he has a mandate from NASCAR. He has to start the Coke 600. So hopefully the weather in Indianapolis on Sunday's good, because any significant delay in the start could trigger Kyle Larson vacating that opportunity, heading to Charlotte to make sure he's here for the 600, where the weather is going to be gorgeous. And in that case, Tony Kanaan starts the race. Now, Kanaan cannot replace Larson in the middle of the race. So this is going to be almost a game time decision. It's going to depend on the weather in Indianapolis. And that's unfortunate. Larson, a couple of crashes, having some trouble this year, starting 21st. Can he win the Indy 500? Sure. Why not? Do I like his chances as well as I liked him last year? No, I don't. I think he had a much smoother, even though it was rookie year, he had a much smoother Indy week. And no, I don't like his chances, but I'm not counting him out. I will tell you this. If I'm picking a favorite right now, I don't know who I'm picking, because there just are too many rock-solid good cars. I'm going to tell you who I would like to see win it, and I think he has a shot, and that's David Malukas for AJ Foyt Racing. He's faster than Santino Ferrucci, and he is strong right now. That would be sort of the great American win, wouldn't it? David Malukas winning the Indy 500. But with that being said, who am I picking to win? Well, I can't ignore the Penske cars even after all this mess. And this will start a firestorm if it happens on social media. But again, I guess that's part of the fun, right? Joseph Newgarden wins it again. That's my pick. Keep your eye, though, on both Foyt cars. I think they're going to be fast in the race. NASCAR, Coke 600, we come off Wilkesboro, where we had what I think is the most exciting all-star race in half of forever. Maybe since 1992, to be honest. I mean, I really enjoyed it. It was a great race. Little too long, I thought, but and we certainly don't need gimmicks. Throw out the stupid yellow flag that Michael Waltrip dropped onto the racetrack. Okay, the idea of some random NASCAR yellow doesn't need to be in an all-star event. It needs to stay at Wilkesboro. That track is aging beautifully. The competition is getting better, and I can't wait to see what happens going forward in that race, to be honest. I'd like to see him actually trim the field, and I wouldn't mind seeing a points race there, although I think it would take away from the fact that the All-Star race is the only race they run there every year. I think actually makes it better. I think you could get too familiar with the track, and then everybody figures it out, and the racing's not as good. But that was a great race weekend. Congratulations to the NASCAR and everybody. Now on to Charlotte. They do a great job at Charlotte Motor Speedway every year, not only of thanking the troops and really showing the support for what Memorial Day weekend should be, okay, but the racing's always good. Even when Martin Truex leads almost every lap, the rest of the race was still good. He was just out in the stratosphere that year, okay? Love the Coke 600. I think it's going to be very competitive this year. I'm actually picking Ryan Blaney to win it. But again, I think you got about 20 cars that could actually win this race. And the weather is supposed to be picture perfect. We've got ARCA, we've got trucks, we've got Xfinity, and we've got the Coke 600 all wrapped up into one weekend at Charlotte. It's going to be a lot of fun. And it's the debut of Amazon Prime. as the home of NASCAR racing for the next 5 weeks. Am I super excited about that? No, but it's inevitable. Streaming was always going to come into the picture here because I believe it's the future of all television. Now, I have my feelings about how that's going to play out. I think a lot of the cable networks eventually are going to end up turning into more what CW is. They're going to have some of their own programming, but they're going to be distributing and basically playing a lot of everybody else's stuff. And so I think that's where it's going. But I also think Fast TV, we're on PowerTube TV, one of the fastest growing Fast TV streaming networks. Okay, I think that's part of the future. And as much as I hate it for the older fan base that may not be subscribed to Prime and may have to bite the bullet if they want to watch NASCAR for 5 weeks, and then have to figure out how to maneuver the internet. My mother could never even turn on a computer hardly, let alone the internet. So I don't know where that goes, but I think it's great for the younger demographic, and I think it's inevitable. Prime gets the next 5, then TNT. And Dale Jr. back in the booth, and I am looking forward to seeing how Prime covers the event differently, because to be quite honest with you, I was very disappointed with the quality of Fox's coverage this year. Very disappointed. And I think Prime could be a breath of fresh air here. And since the TNT part is basically the same group, it should be interesting for the next 10 weeks or so. And don't forget, Max is in there as well as a streaming partner. And then we go into NBC toward the end of the year. But a lot to talk about going into Charlotte, and everybody is focused on the Kyle Larson watch because he has to start the Indy 500 or he will not be racing in it. He has to get back on time for the 600. So again, any delay in the conclusion of the 500, that car could pull off at Indy. It may not be able to complete the race. There could be that scenario as well. And that would suck worse, in my opinion, than Kyle Larson actually not starting the race. I would rather have the start delayed and Kyle have to come back to Charlotte because, rather than see him have to suspend his effort at Indy because he has to leave by a certain time to get back to Charlotte on time to be able to start the 6. So it's really going to be a tricky proposition. Hopefully the weather's perfect in both places. The races go off the way that they should, and he can start the race and have every chance to complete the event before he has to get back for the 600. I hate that NASCAR just doesn't care enough about the big picture mainstream sports story of somebody trying to do what amounts to 1,100 miles in a day. But this is where we're at. They weren't going to issue him a waiver. It basically was, you're starting the 6 or else. And that's pretty much where we're at. So, last hurrah for Kyle at Indy, trying to do the double at least for a little while anyway. We'll talk more next week about, obviously, how that worked out. I hope that all of you find a local track or some track to go and support this weekend. There's a ton of big racing all around the country. Get out, take your kids, take the neighbors' kids, and let's build some future race fans. More next time on the Tom Baker Show. Until then, for more exclusive content and stories, join us at steeringwheelnation.com and our 24/7 streaming page on Watch PowerTube TV. So long.